All right, so today we're going to be tackling earworms.
Oh,
You know
yeah.
those catchy tunes that get stuck in your head?
Yeah.
And we've got some really fascinating research here, all about this everyday phenomenon that I think everybody listening has probably
All
experienced.
right. Yeah. Everyone's had an earworm, I'm sure,
Yeah,
at some point.
for sure.
It's really incredible how this very common experience can sort of open up all these questions about the brain and how we process music,
Yeah.
and maybe even evolution.
Exactly. And so today we'll be kind of digging through these studies to try to figure out what makes a song more likely to become an earworm.
Right.
Like, is there something about the tune itself, or is it more about us, our
Right.
personalities, or memories, or even our cultures?
Yeah. Yeah. It's probably a mix of everything,
Yeah.
which is what makes this so interesting to sort of unpack.
Yeah, definitely. So first things first, are earworms just like a quirky way of remembering songs, or is there more to it?
Yeah, it's definitely more than just passive recall. I mean, it's like your brain decides to host its own private concert, whether you're on board with it or not.
Right.
Some researchers even describe it as a kind of auditory hallucination.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
A phantom melody.
right.
I like that. That's a good way to put it. So it's like your brain is composing even when you're not trying to.
Yeah.
But why do some songs have this power over us while others just kind of fade into the background?
Well, some research points to specific structural elements that make a song sticky.
Okay.
Repetition's a big one.
Uh-huh.
Also, a simple melody with an upward leap followed by a downward resolution.
Okay.
You see this a lot in nursery rhymes, which are notoriously good at getting stuck in your head.
Yeah,
Like,
that's so true. Like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star.
exactly.
Yeah, anyone who has kids has probably had that stuck in their head a lot.
Right.
But it can't just be the structure, though, right? I mean,
Right.
we've all heard repetitive and simple tunes that don't become earworms.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're totally right. There's something else going on here.
Yeah.
And it might be something called the Zeigarnik effect.
Okay.
And essentially, this is the idea that our brains tend to cling to unfinished tasks or unresolved situations.
Okay.
Like, think about how much more a cliffhanger at the end of a TV show makes you want to watch the next episode,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. I see the connection there.
Yeah.
So that unresolved tension, that feeling of like, I need to know what happens next,
Right.
could be why an unfinished melody just keeps looping in our heads.
Exactly.
It's like our brains are craving that resolution.
That's one theory.
Yeah.
And it really highlights, how earworms are more than just a passive listening experience. They're
Yeah.
actively engaging our brains
Right.
in a way that other memories might not.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
But hold on. If unresolved tension is so key, why do we sometimes get stuck with like jingles
Right.
or snippets of songs rather than the whole piece?
Yeah.
Those feel pretty resolved to me.
Well, that's where, individual differences come in.
Oh, okay.
And this is one area where the research gets really interesting.
Okay, I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah.
So tell me more about this individual variation.
Okay.
Is it personality based? Does it have to do with like how much music we listen to?
Yeah, all of the above, actually.
Yeah.
So people who are heavily involved with music, listening, playing, singing,
Mm-hmm.
are more likely to experience earworms.
That makes sense.
Right.
The more music you're exposed to, the more ammunition your brain has for these phantom melodies.
Exactly. Yeah. And studies also show links between earworm frequency and certain personality traits like openness to experience
Okay.
and even neuroticism.
Oh, so maybe my tendency to overthink things is what's fueling my epic earworm struggles.
Could be.
But wait, if all this research is based on people who like love music,
Yeah.
what about folks who aren't as musically inclined?
Right.
Do they get earworms?
That's a great question. And it kind of gets to the limitations of the research itself. Most studies have focused on Western-educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic populations.
Mm.
What researchers call weird.
The weird bias strikes again.
Yeah.
I've heard that term before, but I never thought it would apply to earworms.
Right.
So we don't really know if this is like a universal phenomenon.
Exactly. It's possible that musical traditions in other cultures shape how people experience involuntary musical imagery, or even if they experience it at all.
Okay, so we've got a lot to unpack here.
Yeah.
We've talked about musical structure, unresolved tension, individual differences, but it sounds like cultural context could be a huge missing piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, it definitely adds another layer of complexity
Yeah.
to the equation.
Sure.
It makes you wonder, could earworms be a byproduct of Western musical structures? Maybe people who grew up with different musical traditions experience them entirely differently.
Wow, that opens up like a whole new avenue of exploration. It's like
Yeah.
we've just scratched the surface of this phenomenon.
Yeah. And who knows what other surprises await us as we kind of dive deeper into this world of involuntary musical imagery.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to take a quick break and then we'll be right back to continue our deep dive into earworms.
Okay, so we've established that earworms are more than just catchy tunes.
Right.
They're these like fascinating little windows into how our brains work,
Yeah.
how we process music, how we form memories, and maybe even how we connect with each other.
Exactly. And that social connection aspect is something I find particularly intriguing.
Okay.
We tend to think of earworms as this solitary experience
Right?
happening inside our own heads. But what if they're actually tapping into something much larger?
Right.
Something that links us to other people?
I'm hooked.
Yeah.
Tell me more about this social dimension of earworms.
Okay, well, think about the role of music in human societies.
Mm-hmm.
Music brings people together.
Yeah.
It creates shared experiences. It evokes strong emotions,
Right.
from tribal drumming circles to sold-out concerts.
Music has this incredible power to foster a sense of community.
Right. It's like when you're at a concert and everyone knows the words to the song
Exactly.
and you're all singing along together, you're dancing together.
Yeah.
You feel this energy that connects you to everyone in the room.
Exactly. And even when we're listening to music alone,
Mm-hmm.
we're often tapping into those shared experiences,
Right.
those memories of singing along with friends or family or dancing at a party.
So if earworms are these snippets of music that get stuck on repeat in our minds, could they be acting as reminders of those social connections, even when we're physically alone?
It's a fascinating possibility, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like our brains are carrying around these little musical echoes of our social lives,
Right.
subtly reinforcing those bonds, even when we're not consciously thinking about them.
That's a really cool way to think about it.
Yeah.
But wait, if earworms are linked to memory and social connection, why do we sometimes get those annoying jingles or advertising slogans stuck in our heads? Those don't exactly evoke warm, fuzzy feelings of community.
Remember, it's not always about positive emotions.
Right.
Sometimes those annoying earworms are tapping into memories of stress or anxiety,
Oh,
which can be just as powerful as positive ones.
okay.
It's like our brains are trying to process or make sense of those experiences
Mm-hmm.
by replaying them in musical form.
That makes sense. It's like when you have a stressful day at work
Right.
and you find yourself replaying the conversation that triggered your anxiety over and over in your head.
Exactly.
Except in this case, it's a catchy jingle or a snippet of a song that's doing the replaying.
Exactly. And the more we try to suppress those thoughts or feelings,
Mm-hmm.
the more likely they are to pop up in other forms,
Oh,
like earworms.
okay.
It's almost like our brains are trying to tell us something,
Right.
even if we don't want to hear it.
So those annoying earworms might actually be serving a purpose, however frustrating it might feel in the moment. They're forcing us to confront those unresolved emotions or anxieties that we might otherwise try to push aside.
That's one way to look at it. And it brings us back to the idea of the Zeigarnik effect,
Uh-huh.
the concept that our brains crave closure or resolution.
Right.
Those negative earworms might be a way of reminding us that we have some unfinished emotional business to attend to.
Okay. I'm starting to see those annoying jingles in a whole new light.
Yeah.
They're not just random annoyances. They're like
Yeah.
these little musical messengers nudging us to pay attention to what's going on beneath the surface.
Precisely. And that's what makes this whole topic so fascinating.
Yeah,
It challenges us to think about music not just as entertainment or art,
right.
but as a powerful force that shapes our thoughts, emotions, and even our social connections.
It really does make you appreciate the complexity of the human experience, doesn't it?
It really does.
But let's bring it back to those earworms for a moment. We've talked about the emotional side of things, but is there anything else that might make someone more prone to getting songs stuck in their heads?
Well, we've touched on personality traits and musical involvement,
Right.
but research also suggests that people who experience higher levels of stress or anxiety might be more susceptible to earworms.
That makes sense. When you're stressed, your mind tends to race.
Right.
And it's harder to control those intrusive thoughts, whether they're worries about work or a catchy tune that just won't quit.
Exactly. And earworms being a form of involuntary musical imagery
Mm-hmm.
can easily slip in during those moments of heightened cognitive load or emotional distress.
So it's almost like those catchy tunes become a refuge, a way for our brains to momentarily escape the stress and find a bit of comfort in the familiar.
Yeah,
But if those tunes are linked to negative memories or anxieties, it seems like that could backfire, making the stress even worse.
absolutely. The emotional impact of an earworm is often tied to the emotional associations we have with the song itself.
Yeah.
A song that brings back happy memories might provide a brief respite from stress,
Right.
while a song linked to a negative experience could exacerbate those feelings.
So it's not just about how catchy the tune is, but also about the emotional baggage that comes along with it.
Right.
This is all starting to make sense now.
It's a complex interplay of factors.
Yeah.
And it highlights the importance of paying attention to how music affects us on an individual level.
Right.
What might be a soothing earworm for one person could be a source of stress or irritation for someone else.
It's all about recognizing that our experiences with earworms are subjective and influenced by a whole range of personal factors.
Exactly, and that's something to keep in mind as we continue our exploration of this fascinating phenomenon.
You know, it's amazing how something as seemingly trivial as an earworm can lead us down this rabbit hole of questions about the human experience.
It really is.
We've talked about memory, emotion, social connection.
Yeah,
It's like these catchy tunes are these unexpected keys to unlocking deeper truths about ourselves.
absolutely, and we're just scratching the surface here.
Yeah.
There are so many avenues to explore when it comes to earworms. For example,
Yeah.
we've talked about the role of melody and rhythm in making a song catchy, but what about lyrics?
Right.
Do they play a significant role in earworm formation?
That's a great point. I know for me, sometimes it's a specific phrase or word that gets stuck rather than the tune itself. It's like my brain is latching on to the meaning or the emotional weight of those words.
Exactly, and there's some research to support that.
Okay.
Studies suggest that lyrics can contribute to earworms, especially if they're particularly meaningful or emotionally evocative to the listener.
Right.
It's as if the words add another layer of stickiness to the music, making it even more likely to linger in our minds.
That makes sense. A song that tells a story or expresses a sentiment that resonates with you personally is going to have more staying power than one with generic or forgettable lyrics.
Exactly.
It's like the words and the music work together to create this potent cocktail that our brains just can't resist.
And that speaks to the power of music as a form of communication, as a way of conveying emotions and ideas that might be difficult to express in words alone.
Right.
It's like music has this direct line to our subconscious, bypassing our rational filters and speaking to something deeper within us.
It's fascinating, isn't it? And it makes me think about the therapeutic potential of music.
Right.
We've talked about how earworms can be linked to stress and anxiety, but could they also be harnessed for good?
That's a really interesting question, and one that researchers are starting to explore.
Okay.
There's a growing field of music therapy where music is used to address a wide range of physical, emotional, and cognitive needs.
So it's not just about using music for entertainment or enjoyment.
Right.
It's about recognizing its potential to heal, to soothe, to inspire.
Precisely, music can stimulate certain areas of the brain,
Yeah.
trigger the release of feel-good hormones, and even help to regulate mood and behavior.
Wow.
And while the research on earworms in a therapeutic context is still in its early stages, there's a lot of potential there.
It's like we've been given this gift, this ability to connect with music on such a deep personal level. And now we're starting to understand how to use that gift to improve our well-being.
Exactly. And who knows what we'll discover as we continue to explore the fascinating world of earworms?
Yeah.
Maybe someday we'll be able to create personalized earworm playlists
Okay.
tailored to our individual needs and goals.
Uh-huh.
Imagine a playlist for relaxation,
Yeah.
one for focus, one for motivation.
Wow. That's like taking the concept of a mixtape to a whole new level.
Yeah.
It's almost like we could reprogram our brains with music,
Right.
using those catchy tunes to cultivate positive emotions, enhance our creativity, even improve our sleep.
It's an exciting prospect, and it's just one of the many possibilities that open up when we start to delve into the science behind earworms.
Well, I think it's safe to say that we've come a long way from simply dismissing earworms as annoying or random occurrences.
Right.
We've seen how these catchy tunes offer a window into the complex workings of the human brain, revealing insights about memory, emotion, social connection, and even our evolutionary past.
And perhaps most importantly, we've gained a new appreciation for the profound impact that music has on our lives, whether we're consciously listening to it or not.
Absolutely. So the next time you find yourself humming along to an involuntary soundtrack, Take a moment to appreciate the intricate symphony of neural activity that's playing out inside your head.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even the simplest things, a catchy tune, a familiar melody, can hold hidden depths and unexpected beauty, and who knows, that pesky earworm might just be a sign that your brain is working its musical magic.